Good afternoon, everyone. We're here with the VSuccess. Today, I'm Michas, and we have Director General John McMahon with us. So, Maia.
Hi, my name is Maia Fukuyama, and I'm in my second year at Vanier College in the psychology program.
All right. So, Mr. Director General, could you please present yourself?
Certainly, and it's a pleasure to speak with you this afternoon. My name is John McMahon. I'm the Director General of Vanier College.
And what have been your most fulfilling or memorable experiences at Vanier?
Well, I think the most fulfilling experiences that I've had at Vanier always involve student activities or student events. At the end of the year, in a regular year, we celebrate the graduates of Vanier College in a wonderful ceremony at Place-des-Arts in June, mid-June. And that's the kind of event that is extremely rewarding for everyone in the education sector. It is the epitome of all the work that we've done with those students, and to see them walk across the stage and to see their family and friends in the upper decks of Place-des-Arts, nothing is more rewarding than that. So all events that involve students. It could be athletic events. As you know, we have some outstanding athletic teams at Vanier. Last winter, just before the pandemic struck, I had the good fortune of watching the men's basketball team win the provincial championship. I've seen football championship teams, both male and female athletes. So anytime I can attend student events to witness what CEGEP education is all about, whether it's academics or athletics or fun activities. Sometimes we have events at the college, as you know, Who Wants to Be a Star, and dance competitions, robotics competitions. So for me as Director General, when I can walk through the college and see the students in action, that's the most fulfilling.
Definitely. It's amazing to see the students go through their journey of growing up.
So, sir, you've been in academics for a very long time. Do you have any interest outside of the academic world? Any hobbies, perhaps?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I've been in education for more than 40 years now. Started my career as a secondary school teacher in the Arctic, northern Quebec, in Nunavik. And that was a wonderful experience because one of my passions outside of working is the great outdoors. And living and teaching in the Arctic gave me the opportunity to experience one of the most beautiful regions of Canada. And that still continues today. In my downtime, spare time, and vacation time, you'll often see me enjoying the great outdoors, whether it's fishing on my boat, whether it's golfing, biking. I'm very active. I still play hockey as a senior. And so I enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy sports and staying active.
Mr. Director General, why would you say that academia and school management was a field that interested you initially, and where did that interest stem from?
Well, I think we all, going through school, whether it's elementary, secondary, sometimes college or university, we all have mentors who we have encountered in that journey. And I was very fortunate in high school. I had a couple of wonderful teachers, geography teachers, and I had a passion for history and geography. And I was very much inspired by those high school teachers that I had. And that led me to thinking that education may be a career path. But it wasn't my first choice, in fact. I did want to pursue becoming a pilot in the Canadian Armed Forces, but the timing 1 year did not sync with the entry program for pilot training. So I decided to go to McGill for the time they had a 1 year graduate program to train you after your degree, to train you as a secondary teacher. And so I entered that program not knowing whether or not I would pursue teaching, but as soon as I went to my first placement at a local Montreal high school, I fell in love with teaching. And as I mentioned before, when I first started my my career as a teacher in the Arctic, I just fell in love with the students, with education, and that's where the passion really started.
Currently, sir, you're the Director General, obviously the highest executive at the college. Mm-hmm. Could you please talk a little bit about the duty of the Director General?
Well, the major role of Director General is I do have a boss. I report to the Board of Directors of Vanier College. And one of the primary responsibilities of the Board of Directors is to approve a strategic plan for the college. Typically, it's a 5-year strategic plan, and it incorporates strategic objectives that the board wants the college to implement over a 5-year period. So as the CEO, as the Director General, reporting to the board, my main responsibility is to make sure that the strategic plan is implemented. To do that, I rely on the team at Vanier College. My direct reports include directors in different divisions, including the academic sector, the academic dean, but then there's director of plant and facilities, director of human resources, director of finance, etc. So all of the directors who report to me in each of their areas, they have responsibilities to fulfill, again, always linked to the strategic plan and meeting the strategic objectives that the board of directors has set for the college. So my role is to make sure that those objectives are realized and motivating the team, working with the team, supporting the team through and all the faculty and staff of the college to achieve those objectives.
And I think, sir, you've carried yourself admirably in that duty, and we thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for your kind words.
How do you personally feel that you help students at Vanier in your role as Director General?
Well, as I said, I'm in my 40th, or just over 40 years as an educator, and I've worked as a teacher, a student counselor, a high school principal, college director, vice president academic dean, and now finally a Director General. And so my passion is education, my passion is students, and you'll often hear me state publicly, whether I'm speaking to students or whether I'm speaking only to my directors or in meetings with faculty and staff, that student success is the number one priority. Students are coming to Vanier College and they want to achieve success, whether it's graduating from a pre-university program or a technology program, or maybe an upgrading program or a continuing education attestation. But regardless of why they're coming, they want to achieve success. And our job, our role is to help them to achieve that objective. And so that's my prime focus, is student success. And what I do as Director General is to make sure that concept, that student success is the number one priority, is instilled in every member of Vanier College, every faculty member and every member of the staff, whether they're support staff, professionals, or managers. It's to instill a student-centered approach throughout the college.
So you've been working in different schools. You've worked in the north of Quebec. You've worked also in Ontario. Could you elaborate on the differences between the different schools?
Well, I've worked in different jurisdictions. I've worked in the Arctic, in Nunavik. I've also worked in the Bahamas. I taught in the Bahamas for a year. A wonderful experience teaching in a high school in Apico, in Ontario at the Ontario College System. My most recent experience in terms of college education was in Ontario, and I think the major difference in between Ontario and Quebec is the Ontario colleges are almost exclusively technology programs, unlike the cégeps in Quebec that include the 2-year pre-university program. In Ontario, students who wish to go to university complete grade 12 in high school and then proceed to a 4-year program. And as you know, in Quebec, it's 11 high school, 2 pre-university cégep, and 3 university to get an undergraduate degree. So that was the main difference in the college system in Ontario, that focus on exclusively on technology programs permeated through the institution in terms of our link with industry, a much more technological approach linked to a business approach. Whereas in the CEGEP system, there is that balance between the pre-university programs and the focus and the atmosphere that creates within the institution, balanced with the technology programs. We're unique in Quebec in terms of having that balance. So that was a significant difference. And my background prior to going to Ontario was exclusively a university-type background, more academic university. So I welcomed the opportunity to work in a college environment that was exclusively focused on technology programs.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for elaborating.
Mm-hmm. But I should say what's common in all of those institutions, whether it's the high school in the Arctic or the Bahamas or colleges in Ontario and Quebec, I've been fortunate to work in institutions that always stressed student success as the top priority.
And what would you say inspires you the most in your current position as Director General?
Well, as I mentioned before, the epitome of college events is to see students be successful, and that is the most inspirational thing that we can have as educators. You know, just walking around the halls of Place des Arts after the graduation ceremony and talking with graduates and their parents and seeing the smiles and the families taking photographs and celebrating the success. There's nothing more rewarding than seeing students at that stage of their educational pathway. They've achieved success. They're looking forward to the next steps, whether it may be to go on to university, it may be to pursue a career if they're a graduate of a technology program. But regardless, they've reached a milestone and they're celebrating success. So as educators, whether we're administrators or whether we're faculty or staff, that's very rewarding when we see students celebrate their successes.
Definitely. I imagine as an educator, it's absolutely amazing to see the next generation just light up.
Yeah, and I should add, as I mentioned, I've been in education for more than 40 years. So some of my first students that I had in high school, are quite old now, as I am. And when those students get back to you and tell you that you made a difference in their life when you were either their teacher or when you were an administrator in the institution where they studied. When those students get back to you with those stories about how you impacted them, that is extremely rewarding as well.
If one wished to become a Director General or an administrator, how would they go about doing that?
Well, there are different pathways to become a Director General. Probably the most typical one, and the more normal pathway is to be an academic dean first. I think most of the Director Generals still, although it is changing, but most of the Director Generals may have started their career as a teacher, faculty member, and then entered into administration, perhaps as a coordinator, a dean, and then an academic dean or director of studies, and then to Director General. Although increasingly, Director Generals come from a variety of backgrounds, not just academic. There are many Director Generals who perhaps were human resources directors before, or directors of communications. When I was in Ontario, there were many presidents, which is the equivalent of Director General, many college presidents who had come from industry. They had served as CEOs in business or industry. Some were even from the military. There were some ex-officers from the Canadian Armed Forces who then made the transfer into college administration. So there are many pathways, although the typical one, as I said, is would be teacher, coordinator, dean, academic dean, director general. That's the more typical pathway.
All right, I think your answer is going to help perhaps people that aspire to that position and help them navigate a certain path. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, do you have any parting academic or life advice that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, usually in the graduation address at Place des Arts, and I'm really looking forward to being able to get back to Place des Arts in person and have that kind of graduation ceremony face to face with our students. But usually in that graduation address, I mention to the graduates, I try to offer a piece of advice along the lines of accept the changes that life is going to throw at you. Life is not a linear pathway. It doesn't necessarily go according to plan in terms of A to B to C to D, and everything is predictable. There are twists and turns, challenges, obstacles to overcome, opportunities to embrace. And my recommendation to all students is embrace the opportunities that come your way. Be ready to pivot. Be ready to change directions. And don't avoid those opportunities. I remember listening to probably one of the most inspiring graduation addresses by a guest speaker several years ago. And his very simple message was, say yes. So when you're given an opportunity, say yes to the opportunity, because it leads to places that otherwise you may not experience. So embrace the changes and the challenges that life present to you. Be ready to pivot and enjoy the journey. It's one exciting, adventurous journey that you will have as a graduate of Vanier College when you go on to university or onto a career, and just embrace all of those changes and challenges.
Definitely. That's an amazing piece of advice. You never know where life can take you or lead you.
Absolutely.
So we've come to the end of the interview. Thank you, Mr. Director General, for participating. Thank you, Maia.
My pleasure, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. And I've seen some of your previous postings, and they're excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And so we hope you enjoyed this interview, and we'll see you next time.